One courtroom, one prince, and a lawsuit that's starting to look less like justice and more like a public unraveling. What was supposed to be a bold stand against the press has turned into a spectacle where Prince Harry's own past, his own words, and even his former love life are being dragged into the spotlight. Observers say this case isn't just about privacy anymore. It's about credibility, memory, and whether a man who told the world his truth can keep that story straight under oath.
Harry loses the plot. The Duke of Sussex's first day in the witness stand in his needless and bitter war against the Daily Mail newspaper was a complete disaster. The guy is a hot mess, attacking the royal family, once again playing the victim card. Poor me, the world's least happy millionaire.
Was a reason Meghan Markle didn't want Prince Harry to go to war with the Daily Mail, and today we now understand why.
Harry is quite delusional. I believe that he behaves like an immature teenager that is still throwing one big epic tantrum.
Prince Harry is now so deeply unhappy in California, he's intent on quitting his life in the United States, with sources telling Radar he's now homesick. A lost Duke who feels stalled, isolated, and desperate to reclaim a sense of purpose away from Hollywood.
Devastating moment for Prince Harry's reputation and credibility, as he argues with a judge while in the dock, contradicts himself, appears to fib about using the pseudonym Mr. Mischief.
So when I was in court for Prince Harry's case on Monday, I thought that I saw the woman who I understand to be Prince Harry's alleged stalker, so-called stalker, lined up outside courtroom 76, trying to get access after lunch on day one when his team were laying out his case.
That Harry, as part of his session to the King in order to return, will not launch any new legal actions against the UK press.
Well, as we all know, Prince Harry is in the UK. He is testifying around this case that he has against the Associated News.
Getting into big trouble with the judge for yelling at the Daily Mail's main lawyer. Harry is out of control. He hates accountability, and his performance in the witness stand today was absolutely...
But Harry's in court because he's still suing the Daily Mail. He's still suing all of these papers. And what's interesting is these folks are so fame hungry, okay? And then when they get written about, they don't love the way they've been written about. It's like, okay, you guys can't make your mind up. You can't be happy. It's this catch-22. You want constant press, and you want to constantly...
From the very start, the atmosphere around this trial has felt explosive. Commentators have described it as deeply personal, emotionally charged, and dangerously unpredictable. Instead of a clean legal argument, the court keeps circling back to Harry's own history, relationships, interviews, and most of all, his memoir. And then came the moment no one expected to dominate the headlines: Chelsea Davy.
Harry was sworn in before taking his seat in the witness box, and he was questioned under oath by David Sherborne, who is his barrister. He was then cross-examined by Anthony White KC, who is, of course, representing the Daily Mail newspaper. Anthony White KC knows his onions and has taken Harry down and taken him down.
Her name, spoken aloud in a London courtroom, instantly shifted the tone. Not because she's on trial, she isn't, but because her past with Harry has become part of the legal battlefield. Legal analysts watching the proceedings say the defense strategy appears simple. If Harry claims intrusion into his private life, they will examine just how private that life really was, and who else has spoken about it publicly over the years.
Harry's relationship with Chelsea Davy, the true love of his life, front and centre at the High Court on day 2 of this explosion between the delusional Duke and the Mail newspaper. Lots of details about their romance being discussed as Harry's facial expression were judged in intimate detail. Now, it was telling that when Harry arrived for day of this bomb case today, an interview asked him about free speech, and he conveniently chose to ignore it.
The uncomfortable contrast being drawn in media commentary is hard to ignore. Chelsea, who has long stayed out of the royal drama, is now back in global headlines because of a case she didn't file and a fight she didn't choose. Critics of Harry argue that by reopening chapters of his past in court, he may also be reopening them for people who thought they had moved on. That's where the accusations of hypocrisy start flying. Pundits and columnists have pointed out that Harry himself revealed deeply personal stories about family members in interviews and in his book. Now in court, his legal team is arguing that certain reporting crossed lines that should never have been crossed. Supporters say he's drawing a line between telling his own story and being targeted by unlawful methods.
Imogen James from inside the High Court reported it contains specific and intimate details of his private life and relationship with Chelsea Davy Sherborne Singh. One line says Harry was a regular fixture at Davy's house. The article also includes their plans as a couple and the Duke's preferences he likes to spend the night. Prince Harry says this is highly sensitive information in his witness statement. Sherborne says Prince Harry's evidence is amply firm that it couldn't have come from another person other than Davy or him, and neither of them shared this. This could not have conceivably have come from a legitimate source, Sherborne said.
Skeptics say once you put your private life into the public domain, it becomes much harder to argue total privacy later. That tension is now sitting right at the heart of the case. Back in California, Meghan's name keeps surfacing in commentary, though she is not in the courtroom. Tabloids are painting this as an emotional storm unfolding an ocean away, a husband reliving the past under oath while his present life is dissected online. None of that is part of the legal arguments, but it is absolutely part of the media frenzy surrounding them. The word being whispered by critics? Contradiction. The word used by supporters? Context. And the judge? He seems focused on procedure, not drama. But even that turned into a moment that court watchers say was deeply uncomfortable for Harry. That rebuke from the bench is now replaying everywhere. Legal experts say it's not unusual for judges to remind witnesses to answer directly, but when the witness is a prince and the cameras are metaphorically everywhere, the optics hit differently. To some, it looked like frustration. To others, it looked like a man emotionally invested in a story he feels the world has twisted.
This relationship now being in the spotlight highlights the huge difference between Harry's current wife, Meghan Markle, and the woman who he for a long time believed was the true love of his life, Chelsea Davy. Now, of course, we've got to be clear, she's moved on, she's incredibly happy, living a brilliant life with a new husband, children, and not at all pining for Harry. Indeed, Chelsea Davy will be absolutely furious that he is putting her under the international microscope once again. But just think about the contrast here, folks. Think about why Meghan was so clearly unhappy about this. Because Meghan Markle could never be said to be someone who didn't leak intimate details of her private life with Prince Harry to him. Because she did, multiple times.
Then there's the shadow hanging over everything, the book. Those words, what's in print stays in print, have taken on a life of their own in commentary around this trial. Because now, passages from that memoir are being compared to courtroom testimony, line by line. Not in a dramatic TV showdown, but in the slow, methodical way lawyers build arguments. Legal analysts stress that inconsistencies don't automatically mean wrongdoing. Memory is messy. Trauma can distort timelines. But they also say high-profile litigation leaves very little room for narrative flexibility. When something is written, published, promoted as factual, and then revisited under oath, every detail matters. Meanwhile, a broader comparison keeps bubbling up in opinion pieces. Prince William's past legal actions against media outlets. Supporters of Harry say every case is different.
Right from the off, Harry was on the defensive and very bristly and very abrasive. And the judge intervened 3 times to try and calm him down. I mean, the first time, which was the one that you showed there, he was actually quite sympathetic and he was quite like, look, this is my job. I understand that this is a big moment for you, but you're making a mistake that a lot of people make. Let me just tell you, your job now is just to answer these questions. Let your legal team answer the case. And Harry seemed to kind of go, okay, my lord, yeah, whatever.
Critics argue it proves legal action was always an option, challenging Harry's previous claims about royal constraints. That debate isn't being settled in court, but it's raging everywhere else. Financial speculation has also entered the chat. Commentators are crunching numbers from book deals, streaming contracts, security costs, legal fees. Some paint a picture of massive success. Others warn of massive expenses. None of those figures are being tried in court, but they fuel the narrative that this lawsuit isn't just emotional, it's high stakes in every sense. And behind it all, there's the image that keeps resurfacing in media coverage. A prince who once seemed carefree, now sitting in a witness box, having his past replayed, his words reread, his choices re-examined. Some see courage, a man taking on powerful institutions. Others see recklessness, a man who underestimated how unforgiving the legal system can be. What's undeniable is this: the story Harry wanted to tell is no longer his alone. It's being picked apart by barristers, interpreted by judges, and debated by millions who will never set foot in that courtroom. And this is only the beginning. The longer this case drags on, the less it feels like a clean legal fight, and the more it feels like a collision between two versions of reality, the one Prince Harry says he lived, and the one the defense insists can be reconstructed from his own public record. Because now, it's not just about what the tabloids printed years ago. It's about interviews, documentaries, speeches, a memoir that was marketed as raw, honest, and definitive. Every public statement becomes a puzzle piece, and in court, puzzle pieces don't just tell stories, they get tested for fit. Commentators say the defense strategy is brutally simple. If Harry claims he was kept in the dark, controlled, or blocked from acting, they'll point to moments where he clearly acted. If he says he was silenced, they'll replay every time he spoke. If he argues intrusion destroyed his private life, they'll highlight how much of that life he later chose to reveal himself. Supporters argue that's unfair, that choosing to tell your story on your own terms is completely different from having it taken from you. Critics counter that once your life becomes content, the legal lines blur fast. And in this courtroom, blurred lines are dangerous. Then there's the body language everyone keeps dissecting. Court sketches, descriptions from reporters inside the room. Words like tense, frustrated, defensive pop up again and again. Fair or not, perception matters. Legal experts say judges focus on facts, not vibes, but the public? The public runs on optics. And right now, the optic is a prince under pressure. The comparisons to the rest of the royal family aren't going away either. Commentators keep contrasting different approaches to media battles: quiet settlements versus public crusades, tight statements versus global interviews. It's being framed as two philosophies: contain the fire or drag it into daylight. Harry clearly chose daylight. The question now is whether the light is exposing more than he intended. Money talk is swirling louder too. Analysts on TV panels are estimating legal fees, potential liabilities, long-term financial strain. No official numbers are confirmed in court, but the narrative building outside is intense. Huge earnings over the past few years versus huge expenses now. Success versus sustainability. Triumph versus overreach. And hovering over all of it is reputation, the one thing you can't easily calculate. Because lawsuits end, headlines fade, but credibility? Once cracks show, they're hard to seal. Legal commentators keep stressing that even if Harry wins certain points, the process itself is rewriting how the public sees him. Not the cheeky soldier prince, not the newlywed rebel, but a man locked in endless conflict with institutions, family, and the press all at once. Some see bravery in that. Others see obsession. Another theme creeping into the conversation is isolation. Royal insiders quoted in coverage describe a widening emotional distance between Harry and the rest of his family. No public support, no visible outreach, just silence. And in royal language, silence is rarely accidental. That silence is being interpreted in 100 different ways: strategy, disappointment, exhaustion, self-protection. Whatever the reason, it leaves Harry looking like he's fighting this war largely on his own, at least publicly. Meanwhile, the court keeps moving methodically forward, untouched by the drama outside. Dates, evidence, cross-examinations. Procedure doesn't care about popularity, it cares about proof. Legal analysts say that's the real danger zone. Emotion doesn't win cases, narrative doesn't win cases, documentation does. Consistency does. And when a person has given years of interviews, written a detailed memoir, and spoken on global platforms, consistency becomes incredibly hard to maintain. That doesn't mean he's lying, experts caution. It means human memory is fragile, especially when layered with trauma, time, and retelling. But in a courtroom, I felt can clash hard with you said. And when those clashes happen, they become leverage. Public debate has now split into camps. One side believes Harry is exposing long-standing media wrongdoing and paying a personal price to do it. The other believes he underestimated how deeply his own public disclosures would complicate his case. Both sides agree on one thing: this trial is redefining him in real time. And Meghan's absence from the courtroom continues to be a talking point. Commentators speculate about strategy, optics, emotional support behind the scenes. None of it is confirmed. All of it is discussed. In the media world, presence is a statement. So is absence. The most haunting part? This isn't a single explosive moment. It's a slow burn. Each day adds another quote, another exchange, another detail for analysts to chew on. No dramatic verdict yet, just accumulation. And sometimes, accumulation does more damage than one big blow, because by the time judgment comes, the public may have already made up its mind. Right now, Harry stands at a crossroads that feels bigger than one lawsuit. If he wins key arguments, he reinforces his narrative that he was targeted unfairly. If he loses major points, critics will say the system he's fighting just exposed his own contradictions. Either way, the fairy tale version of this story is gone. What's left is complicated, messy, deeply human, and playing out under legal rules that don't bend for titles. And as the court days stack up, one question keeps echoing through commentary panels and social feeds alike. Did he take on the press? Or did he finally walk into a fight where the press had all the receipts?